Bitcoin is still running on a heater. Coinbase came out with the weakest excuse for the failure yesterday. The miners are suffering greatly today, and Marathon's earnings are a bit murky at best. Let's take a look at the charts and see what's going on, as well as some of the latest news. First, though, I'd like to show you this. That's what the market felt like yesterday while I was watching things go smoothly down a straight road, and then
Thus far, we've
suddenly
got Bitcoin
we
is
turned
still
left
on
off
a
a
heater.
hillside
Bitcoin
for
is going
no
back to that
apparent
high,
reason, reaching for that 64,000 again today, trying to get past it. Meanwhile, Marathon suffering big time. We're down 13, almost 14% today. We're going into the 15-day moving average. We did bounce off of that. Hopefully that will give us some support on that support line there. If not, honestly, $22, here we come. And if that doesn't hold, $20, here we come on Marathon. I hope that this ends up being like a stair step and we just keep bouncing off of the 20 as we go, because honestly, the earnings weren't bad. They weren't bad. If you come in here, I mean, well, first of all, earnings on the latest rules, as I've said multiple times before, Marathon did amazingly here. We got 1,840% on earnings and 5% on revenue. But if you go back here, if you exclude the impact of the newly adopted FASB fair value accounting rules, which is accounting for and disclosure of crypto assets, which requires the ongoing measurement of crypto assets to fair value. Basically, they made that much money per share because Bitcoin appreciated, but they hold a bunch of Bitcoin, so I don't really see how that's unfair to measure them in that way unless everyone thinks Bitcoin's going to fall, which by the volumes flooding into Bitcoin indicate that that's not the case, but whatever. If you exclude the rules for that, they actually lost 2 cents per share when they were expected to make 4, so it's a 100% miss technically if we're talking about excluding accounting rules that they're allowed to use to report their earnings, which sounds like a bunch of BS to me. Anyways, they came down massively yesterday. They're down another 13% today. Clean Spark also down 8% today after that 13% drop yesterday. I did pick up shares yesterday. I picked up call options, long dated, like leap options on Clean Spark as well. And we'll see how those do in the next 6 to 8 months here. Let's see, where are we at? So we are also on the 15-day moving average here for Clean Spark. Hopefully that becomes a point where we bounce and take off from. Usually when we do get above that 15-day and we start approaching it and we get any kind of bounce, it's usually pretty dramatic. So if this bounce comes in, it will be fairly dramatic, maybe even taking out this recent high. So that would be pretty amazing. I would like that very, very much. Now, if this doesn't hold at 1660, right? If we can't hold this $16 level here, we are going to come down to 13 to 1350. That will happen. Below that, we could very easily get into the 11, maybe even to that 1050 mark I have been talking about. So be prepared for that. Have that in your mind that that is a possibility. Now, if we bounce here, we could very easily come and take out this high at 2358 and see new highs in the high 20s, maybe even low 30s. That is what I'm looking for in CleanSpark in the near future. If we do not get a bounce, we're coming down to that 1350. If we do get a bounce, I think that we may make a run for the highs, especially if Bitcoin does not slow down when it doesn't seem like it's going to slow down. And then I'll explain a new extra factor. It's not new, but maybe you forgot about it, or I mean, I know I did, or haven't heard about it in a while, right? I'm going to talk about here in a minute. Then Marathon, these look like stair steps right here. So we came up off this double bottom, we came up to the previous high area, we rejected, we came down to the 15, made a higher low, went up here, made a higher high just now the other day at that $34, right? 34, yeah, $34. Came back down to the 15 again, where we are resting now, and it seems like we may bounce. That would be representation of a higher low after that higher high, and that is usually indicates that a higher high is coming in again. So we might be launching up to that 40. Like this could be the breath we take before we start launching into the high 30s, low 40s range. Now, if $27 doesn't hold, or let's say 26.40, like 26.40-ish on the 15-day moving average, if that does not hold, we are coming down to $20. Like, well, first we'll test 22.70, 22.70 right there at the bottom of this, what would end up being a double top if we get past this. We're going to test 22.70 first. If that does not hold, and I don't know if it will because there's not tons of support there, we're coming back down to that $20 level, that most highly traded level that Marathon likes to oscillate around. Now that's if this 15-day moving average does not hold. If it does hold, we may be looking at newer highs coming in, because honestly, this is a dramatic overreaction to what happened here, and to the fact that the earnings on some former rule that they don't need to follow anymore um, means they actually lost a little bit of money instead of making money. Okay, let's take a look at Bit Digital real quick. We are in the box here. We're in the box. We're basing out in this area. So it looks like this nullified my idea of a megaphone with the fact that we made a lower high here. I don't love that we made a lower high here. We need to stay above 256. Otherwise, we could come to the bottom of this at 250, maybe even down to $2 if this weakness does not let off. I have been now, this is not a suggestion to buy, sell, or hold any assets whatsoever. I have been buying into this weakness. I have been buying Digital, I've been buying CleanSpark, I've been buying Marathon Digital. You may have noticed that I left Bitfarms off of that list. That is because I have fully positioned myself in Bitfarms. I bought all of the shares that I wanted, and so I consider that bag full for now. These three, though, weren't full. I think Bit Digital is now full for me, so I won't be buying any more unless I get like a $2 price, then I might buy a few hundred more. We'll see. And again, not a suggestion to buy, sell, or hold any assets whatsoever. It's just what I am doing. I'm staring at these ridiculous downturns while Bitcoin is on a heater and earnings are coming in good. These companies are and will continue to be profitable going forward as long as Bitcoin stays up. And I don't see any reason indicating in the near future that Bitcoin's really going to come down dramatically. We might see a correction coming down back to that $50,000 level, maybe even the high 40s, but I don't see much more than that. That would be like a flash crash sort of scenario, which we are pretty familiar with in crypto. Um, I also, yeah, bought CleanSpark on this. I mean, CleanSpark is down 20%. That's an average pullback here, so I'm not too concerned about that. The other thing I wanted to touch on is that Brian Armstrong, the CEO of Coinbase, came out and explained what was wrong with Coinbase. They said the large surge in traffic overwhelmed the exchange's infrastructure, which I think is a bit of a cop-out response, especially for the largest publicly traded crypto exchange in the United States and the custodian of all of the Bitcoin for all of the ETFs in the United States. I think that is just not good enough. That is not going to cut it, especially considering, I mean, even in my own account, I saw zero balance for hours. I was unable to trade for hours. There were huge potential gains. I completely missed out on the choice was taken from me. I wasn't planning to sell, but I did not have the option to, and that's not okay. And coming out and simply saying that due to the large surge in traffic, they had an infrastructure failure. They've been through bull runs before. This isn't new to them. That is not an acceptable excuse, especially from the exchange that will be the custodian of pretty much all the Bitcoin in the United States here going forward while these ETFs are taking off. Not okay. And they need to do better. Anyways, the other reason I think, so this is something that came out last year, a year ago, a little more over a year ago. So central banks to start holding crypto on their balance sheets. You've heard of this bank before, the Bank of International Settlements, the BIS. They released a report back in 2023, maybe late 2022, called the Prudential Treatment of Crypto Asset Exposure. And these guidelines go into implementation, meaning that central banks around the world as of January 1st, 2025 will officially be allowed to hold crypto on their balance sheets. If we go to Google and ask Sid about it, central banks can hold only up to 2% of their balance sheets in group two cryptocurrencies, and you know they're all going to choose Bitcoin, like maybe Ethereum, maybe, but they're going to choose Bitcoin. So if you look at the central bank balance sheet for the Fed, this one, this one. If we look at the balance sheet for the Fed here right now, our Fed, the Fed of the United States, it is currently $7.5 trillion. What is 2% of $7.5 trillion? Let's see here, 7.5. We're going to make this easy. Times by 0.02. We're looking at $150 billion. What's the current market cap of Bitcoin? Current market cap of Bitcoin is 1.2 trillion. So that you add another, what is that? A little less than 10% of the current Bitcoin market cap, and that's just one central bank. It's the biggest one, but it is just one. So if they start holding 2% of their balance sheet in Bitcoin, we're going to run out of Bitcoin real fast. It's going to get real. We might see $1 million Bitcoin in the instance that every central bank around the world allocates 2% of their balance sheet to Bitcoin. So keep that in mind. And that goes into effect January 1st. And I bet you they've been collecting now. Technically, they're not supposed to be doing that now, but when prices are taken off like this, I'm sure they're feeling the heat of, do we really want to buy a $250,000 Bitcoin when they're only $60,000 today, and then just, tell everyone about it later after it's been, established that that's okay in the eyes of the Bank of the International Settlements starting January 1st, 2025. I don't think they're going to wait till then. I think they're feeling late to the party already, which is why we may have seen this huge drop off that I'm going to get a little conspiracy here and feel like it was possibly orchestrated. Um, no proof of that whatsoever, of course, but I mean, it's pretty convenient that the moment Bitcoin is reaching a high, running for the all-time high, that Coinbase all of a sudden um, fails, causing right before Marathon, the largest publicly traded Bitcoin miner, reports its Q4 earnings, um, causing everything to tumble, and really damaging the miners. Meanwhile, Coinbase is actually up. Now they're down 2% now, finally, but they ended yesterday up. They started today up. They're finally down, which good. They should be. That was a terrible mess up on their part. They should be down more, not just 1%, 1.5% off their highs from yesterday morning. So that's what's going on. I've been buying into this weakness because I don't think this is over. Bitcoin, honestly, people are saying we could see a $100,000 Bitcoin before the halving, which would be insane. We've never done this before. We've never reached the previous all-time high before a halving event. Last halving event was in May, back here, May of 2020. Previous all-time high before that was about $20,000, 19,000 something, right? We did not reach that level again until November of 2020, a whole 6, 7 months after the halving. Before that, we were still trading about half our all-time high. If we were following that trajectory, we should still be at about $35,000, not running for the previous all-time highs. So keep that in mind. I feel like we might see we might take out the previous all-time high before the halving. We might take it out by a significant margin. I don't know if we'll hit 100,000. I think anyone saying we're going to hit 100,000 is probably just joining the hype train. It's getting pretty intense, and I don't necessarily believe that, but I do think we could hit 70,000. We could hit 75, maybe even 80 before the halving, and then. But what I do think is possibly likely, and if I don't know if I've pointed this out on this channel before, but um, this is looking a lot like how the SPY was looking before we went on our run to all-time highs. If you can see here, we've got a cup forming right here, this big cup. It started back there in 2022, and we had this big swoop down, and we're sweeping back up. And if we come to this orange line here, and then we start to retrace back to this ascending trend line here. And if we then from there start to move back up, that's a cup and handle. That is a big, mighty cup and handle. And you know what that big, mighty cup and handle might just do? Take us to $100,000. If you look at, let me bring up SPY. If you look at SPY weekly chart, this is getting long now, but if you look at the SPY weekly chart, here we go. Big old cup and handle. Starting back here, December 2021. When did it happen on Bitcoin? That was November 2021. And it came, the SPY came up, started making it, didn't quite make it. So I guess you could say the cup was actually here in March 2022. Came down, we reached our low all the way down at 350, came back up to that 450 level. That's a $100 move. And then started making this handle where we came down to $4. We gave back nearly half of that move. We gave back about $50 on that move. And then we started coming out of it. And when we came out of it, we didn't just meet that all-time high, we beat it. And this right here is really looking a lot like this right here. Now, where did we come to right here? Now, maybe we stop at this green line. Maybe that's where we stop and we start forming a handle. But start looking for that handle. You start seeing that handle on Bitcoin, don't panic. The only time to panic, I think, is if we get to into this ascending channel here and maybe to the bottom of it, or maybe even break the bottom of it. But as long as we stay above the halfway mark of this cup here, which I'm going to put here at about 37,000, as long as we stay above this, don't panic. It's just a cup and handle. It's just a big old cup and handle that's going to take us to $100,000. So keep that in mind. We could sell off all the way down to $38,000 and still be bullish on this thing. So keep that in mind. Don't panic. This is not a suggestion to buy, sell, or hold any assets whatsoever. It is not financial advice. It's just what I'm seeing when I look at this chart. I'm not panicking. I am, full disclosure, buying into the weakness. I am thinking Bitcoin will hit 100,000 sometime in this cycle, probably early 2025, maybe late 2024. We'll see Q3, Q4, maybe even this summer. Could happen this summer. Who knows? I think we're on an accelerated track now, given everything that's happening. I think we will see recovery in the miners because they run the network. They are Bitcoin. Without the network, there is no Bitcoin. So the miners are integral in Bitcoin reaching $100,000. Therefore, they have value. Therefore, they are important. And that is why I'm in them. They should be going up today because Bitcoin is up today. Bitcoin is up 1% today and we're down 13%. That's not okay. That doesn't make sense. That's a huge divergence. So anyways, with that said, please like, comment, and subscribe and have a profitable day.